Hi everybody, Jacob here, coming to you from my basement. The Bible reading for today is from Romans chapter 8, it's verse 18. For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us. So, I'm a professor at a university. I teach religion classes. We're into finals week. And finals week tends to be pretty grueling because everything that the students have been, all of the big projects that they're preparing over the course of the semester, all of the final exams, these are the big exams that they have to take, they land on our desks this week, and we have to grade them pretty quickly, sometimes make borderline decisions, and try and do the best we can by the students, where it's much more at this point about what they've learned than about our ability to teach, because that's all behind us. So it's a little grueling. It's maybe a little bit worse because I've been doing it from my basement. That, on the one hand, I get to be at home. I don't have to go in. On the other hand, it's my basement. I'm starting to wonder if the color is fading from my face a little bit. The point I'm making is that as we carry out the vocations that we have, the jobs that we have in which we serve other people, it can sometimes get to be pretty tough. Now, I don't want to suggest that teaching from my basement is anything in comparison to the sort of work that many of you are having to do. That's a silly comparison and doesn't do justice to the situation. But that when we try to live out our callings in service to other people as Christians, it's almost inevitable that in fact, I'm sure it is inevitable that we come into contact with what is painful and difficult. And so when Paul writes in Romans 8, for I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing, right? He's talking about the sufferings of this present time. I think partly what he's acknowledging there is that Christians in their callings work to mitigate the sufferings. So as nurses, you're out there mitigating suffering. As a professor, I'm mitigating a different, not medical suffering, but maybe academic or intellectual suffering, something like that, contributing to the good in those callings and relationships. We run into suffering. And for all of you to whom these devotions apply right now, you're especially caught in the midst of that. And now it's starting to wear on, I know, and we seem to have flattened the curve, but the early expectation that people seem to have that the curve would end, that things would just go away, is totally proving to not be the case. I'm sure you guys are better informed about this than I am, that now we move on this slow phasing back into normal life, and that means for you a long-term need to manage this kind of what Paul calls suffering. You're in it for the long haul. The rest of us are benefiting from your work and thankful for it, because in the work that you do, we see the work of God. Because God is literally working through you to provide for safety, provide for medical help, and so on, but also because there's a picture there of what it looks like when God heals people the way ultimately he does through his Son, Jesus Christ. And so you provide a little bit of a prefigurement of what will happen when Christ returns and exchanges all of our suffering for glory. And that's what this verse is actually about. Suffering is not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed. The glory is bigger than the suffering. The suffering doesn't stand in any comparison. Now, there is a comparison to be made, though, and that's this, that consider in the hospital your ability to send someone home from time to time, healed, better. Someone gets through COVID-19. Someone gets through a difficult operation. Someone recovers from a difficult disease. Someone goes into remission after a cancer diagnosis. That's a little picture of what Christ promises to do for you on the last day. And so when you're in the midst of everything that's going on and you occasionally have the opportunity to send somebody back to their family, try to see that for what it is. That's the work of God on the small scale that reminds you of the work that he's doing on the big scale. And the difference is, of course, that when Christ does it, it'll be for the last time. And they'll end the need for hospitals. It'll end the need to deal with sickness and to deal with suffering, because it won't be there anymore. Thus the title, In Heaven There Are No Nurses. In the meantime, there are, along with so many others of you, taking care of us. So thank you for what you do. God be with you.